How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We got Screen Crush, Spider-Man Brand New Day, teaser breakdown, villains review, new suit, MCU, Easter egg. As you already know, I think we got Mr. Negative, Hulk, Punisher, the Inner Demons, all that good stuff, and even maybe symbiotes.
On second thought, please.
But let's go ahead and get into this. I'm very hyped. Look at that suit. Hold on. Look at that suit.
Hey, welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to break down all the new teasers for Spider-Man
Brand New
New Day. We're going to
Don't be
talk
like
about
out a
every
year by
new
now.
tease and reveal for the movie, including set leaks, the teaser videos,
That suit,
Punisher,
dude.
Hulk, and the multiple villains.
Oh, yeah,
we're gonna see in
Scorpion
the
too.
film. But before we get to the teasers, a lot of other news broke over the
What
weekend.
happened?
So I want to run down everything that we know about Spider-Man Brand New Day so far. All right, let's
I
do
think
it.
Tom
All right,
Holland
so
might
you guys
go
remember
down as
Spider-Man
one of the
No
best
Way Home
Spider-Man.
ended with Doctor Strange casting a spell that meant that everybody
Andrew
in the
still
world
my goat,
forgot
though.
Peter Parker existed, but they still remember Spider-Man. So this ended the
I heard
movie
something
on a
about him,
classic Spider-Man
forgetting
tragedy
himself.
with his girlfriend and best
I don't know
friend
if that's
not
true or not.
remembering who Peter Parker
Sorry, I look
was.
also kind of
But
sharp
the
right now,
last
or
few
tired,
seconds
or
of the
fucked
movie
up,
gave
because
us an
I just woke
amazing
up like an
tease.
hour ago and I'm super
Spider-Man
tired.
wearing a cloth suit swinging through the skyscrapers of New York, and that
Yeah.
got me so excited for Spider-Man 4.
Well, what's the big deal? We've seen Spider-Man do that lots of times.
Yeah, but
Not this
this
Spider-Man.
few seconds was loaded with symbolism. So the first 5 Spider-Man films were very typical Spider-Man
Origin
stories
stories, all
set in
that.
New York, showing him as a superhero lifted straight from the current
Andrew.
comic books. So the Tom Holland trilogy was innovative because it gave us a high school age Peter Parker, played by an actual teenager. We got to see Peter in Queens or in other countries, or working with these past versions of himself. And frankly,
Wasn't
after
he like
5
16 when he
straight
got
movies of the same
role or
setting,
whatever?
this was a welcome change. Spider-Man stories don't have to take place in New York. Hell, I'd watch a Spider-Man story set in space.
Shit. Oh, that already happened.
But those 3 Tom Holland movies also build up a desire for me to see Tom Holland be a regular Spider-Man in New York. And in every movie, he was also in a wired-up tech suit that made him feel like Iron Man Jr.
Hey, Karen, what else can this suit do?
I like that suit, I'm not gonna lie.
What?
So the cloth suit promised us that we would have a bare-bones Spider-Man, back to basics, fighting street-level threats. Now, for a while, it seemed like this movie would get sucked up into the multiverse saga, but I'm going to talk about all that drama a little
Is
bit
it
later
not?
on.
All right, so what do we know about this one?
All right, so for
Sorry, and I also heard, bro, that Dr. Doom's like not gonna start at the
Spider-Man
end.
Brand
I don't know if
New
that's
Day, we
true.
know that it's directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi.
Amazing movie.
And was at one point going to be the director for the Kang Dynasty. The
Hey.
movie's title, Brand New Day, is taken from the comics. After Mephisto erased Peter and Mary Jane's marriage from their memories in an event called One More
Damn.
Day, a fresh story called Brand New Day focused on the life of Peter Parker post-marriage. Just like this movie is about
I
Peter
hope we
when
get
he's
a
trying to
Peter
rebuild
Parker
his life after
when he's
his breakup
older,
with his MJ. We
out of
even see at the
college
end
or
of the
whatever,
movie that
high
he was
school.
going for his high school equivalency exam, and maybe in this
That'd be
film,
really
he'll
cool.
even be
Kind of
going
like
to
a
college. Now, Tom Holland
Insomniac-based
recently
story.
said that No Way Home ended on a cliffhanger, and that was going to be addressed in this movie. I mean, I don't know that I would call the ending a cliffhanger, just that he was moving on. But I think Ned and MJ are going to remember Peter again, because we
They
know
have
that
to, bro.
Zendaya
It's
and Jake Batalon are
Zendaya.
going to be returning for their roles. But even if they do return, Peter has an entire support network that is missing now. Aunt May died. Happy Hogan doesn't remember him. And as far as we
Damn,
know,
Happy,
all
that
of
shit
those
broke me
Edith
down
drones
in
were seeds
theater,
that were
bro.
being used by the Department of
Oh,
Damage
Matt
Control
Murdock,
to
you think we're
control
gonna see him?
superheroes, just like we saw in the show
And
Ms.
Kingpin?
Marvel. So in this movie, we're going to see Peter have to face up against the Hulk with no Stark tech to help him.
Oh, guess what, person?
Depressed,
It's my
weak
birthday.
Peter.
No way! How old are you?
Not really.
I am 1,000 years old.
Buddy, I don't think you're
Hey,
1,000.
bro,
I
what
am
the fuck
too.
is
I'll
wrong?
Google
Okay.
myself and share phone number.
Personal information. Now, back to what I was saying. Like I said, Peter has pretty much severed all
Broke
ties with
Peter
all the
Parker,
other characters in
not
the MCU.
rich
And
Stark
because
boy.
the film rights are owned by Sony, we haven't seen him pop up
Sony.
in any of the New York-centric movies or shows, like Thunderbolts or Daredevil.
just
Although
that's
he did get a cheeky
awesome.
mention in Born
Wait,
Again.
really?
For a man who dresses in a spider outfit.
Now, Daredevil Born Again
I haven't watched
ended with
Born
Wilson
Again.
Fisk, now the mayor of New
I know
York,
I need to.
outlawing vigilantes. So, in a perfect world, this movie would be about that story, the police hunting
know
down
if I should
Spider-Man. But that's not likely to happen.
But why
Watch
not?
all of Daredevil.
Complicated film and TV movie rights. But also, Brand New Day releases in July 2026, and Daredevil Born Again is set to be released
Bro, it's
in
already
March
August. God
2026.
damn it.
So, by the time this movie comes out, Wilson Fisk might not even be the mayor anymore. And Vincent D'Onofrio has said that he is not in the movie movie because of complicated rights issues. But leaker My Time to
Damn.
Shine Hello has said that Kingpin is hinted at in the movie.
Okay.
So that big Daredevil
Oh,
and
the show
Spider-Man
is so
crossover
good.
movie we
Oh
all
my
hope
God, I love
for
the show.
is probably not going to happen
Show's so
yet.
fire.
But Peter is going to meet John Bernthal's The Punisher with a huge twist
That's
we're gonna
crazy.
talk about in just a bit. And there are other confirmed cast members. Sadie Sink is in the movie in an
Really?
undisclosed role. Now, I think it's possible she is playing Felicia Hardy, the villain turned hero called the Black Cat, and love interest to Peter
I
in
don't
the
see it.
comics. Now, a lot of people have fan cast her as Mayday Parker, who is the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane from another universe. And you know what? If Tobey Maguire does pop up in this movie, it could be that she is playing Spider-Girl. But I think it makes more sense for her to play
That
the
don't
Black
make sense.
Cat
She don't
because
look
this
like Black
movie is
Cat.
apparently introducing several villains. Actor Michael Mando confirmed on Instagram that he was going to return
Sting.
as Mac Gargan
Oh, let's
as
go.
Keith in Homecoming.
This?
I love
scenario,
Scorpion.
It's
You know
on
the
a
games.
little spider
In the
friend?
Now, in
show.
the comics, Gargan becomes a supervillain called the Scorpion after J. Jonah
And fucking
Jameson
Kraven
takes him to
kills
get a
him.
super suit and then go off and capture Spider-Man. And you know, in the movies, J. Jonah Jameson has a vendetta against Spider-Man, so that plot line could very easily carry over to the big screen. But in this recent set,
I kinda
photo
wish
on
we
the
got,
side of this tank,
Scorpion
we see the
instead of,
symbol
like,
of a demon, which no is not a symbol
Sandman
of
in the
Mephisto.
No Way Home.
This is a symbol of the
Just
Inner
because,
Demon
like,
Gang,
the
which
actor
is run
wasn't-
by the villain,
Oh, Mr.
Negative.
Negative.
Who's that?
Well, basically, he's a villain.
Oh,
who
he
can
was
touch
so
you and
badass
bring
in the
out
games.
all of your most negative impulses. Now, he's a newer villain who played a big
He
part
was
in the
introduced
recent
in Brand New
Spider-Man
Day.
games. Now, because of the mind control aspect of his powers, I wonder if he's going to control hordes of New Yorkers, including MJ
Devil's
and
Breath
Ned, that this could
2.0,
somehow
imagine.
restore their memories. But we also know that Mark Ruffalo is returning in this
Thor
movie to play
Ragnarok,
the Hulk.
one of the
which,
best
hey,
Marvel
think about
movies.
it. Spider-Man and the Hulk never met.
There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
In Homecoming,
not
we
meet?
did
I
see
swear they
Bruce
did.
Banner's portrait with other great scientific minds. And the last time we saw Bruce Banner, he did have a
Oh,
handle on the
fuck
Hulk.
this
and he
show. I'm
actually worked
sorry.
out a way to sometimes be human.
I
Forgive
made this
me.
little device which keeps me in human form.
Actually, I take that back. The last time we saw him was introducing his kid to a family
What
barbecue.
the fuck is that?
So I'm wondering if Mr. Negative could also touch Bruce Banner and
We
then
want
unleash
Rage
the
Hulk,
Rage
yeah.
Hulk that we all know and
Jinx.
love. And
That
you know
was
what?
crazy.
Good. I'm tired of Smart Hulk.
Same.
I mean, don't get me
All
wrong.
of us
Smart
are.
Hulk is kind of funny.
Bro dabbed in
And, you know,
Avengers
we had
Endgame.
Smart Hulk in the comics for years during a great run by the late great Peter David. But I think the character is most interesting when he is this like tragic Jekyll and Hyde figure. Also, Liza Colin-Zayas, who plays Tina in The Bear, is also confirmed to be in this cast, but we don't know who she's playing.
Rio
Now,
Morales?
despite Kevin Feige saying they're not allowed to do a
They had
live
the
action
Prowler.
Miles Morales, many fans have pointed out that Colin-Zayas is Puerto Rican and could definitely play a
Feast,
live
I mean-
action Rio Morales. I have some theories on how Sony could be built.
They
up
got
to a Miles
Donald
Morales
Glover
Tom
as,
Holland crossover that I'll
Aaron,
talk about a bit
Uncle
later.
Aaron.
But the best casting in the
And
movie
they said
is John
Miles in a
Bernthal
deleted
returning
scene, so
as the
it's true.
Punisher. Now the Punisher is a street-level anti-hero who like straight up murders criminals in the comics.
Fuck yeah.
He actually debuted though as a Spider-Man villain who was manipulated to hunt down Spider-Man
Really?
before he spun off
I didn't
into
know that.
multiple comics of his own. Now, obviously the character's had a few movies, but he really shined when they introduced him in the Netflix Daredevil
Daredevil.
show. He was an antagonist for Matt Murdock and really pushed the boundaries of Daredevil's no-kill morality. And he recently returned in Daredevil Born Again, helping
Hey.
Matt against the Kingpin.
I heard he
in
might
the
have his
final
like
episode.
comic
Now, the
accurate
season
War Machine
ended
suit.
with him escaping from the Kingpin's cells, and we know there is going to be an ultraviolet TV special releasing on Disney Plus, hopefully this year. But I have always wanted to see this version of the ultra-violent Frank Castle, the guy who cut through 30
God
dudes in
damn.
a cell
Let me
block.
tell
I
you
wanna see
something.
this guy team up with a dude who was horrified by the instant kill setting.
No, I don't want to kill anybody.
Leaker Daniel RPK has said that this film will be darker than John Watts' Home films. So maybe the Punisher's one-man war on
Home
crime
films.
is seen on screen, and Peter has to like deal with the
Homecoming,
fallout.
Far
and
From
My
Home.
Time to Shine Hello, another reliable leaker, has said that Frank Castle would be getting a quote major upgrade to go up against the Hulk. Now this
Oh,
could
yeah,
mean that
this-
he'll get some kind of
goddamn,
Iron
bruh.
Man suit or something like that, but I doubt it. I think it's more likely that Peter is going to somehow augment his weaponry. But also remember, the first Tom Holland movie was about the proliferation of the Chitauri tech left over from the Avengers. A villain named the
Oh.
Tinkerer was creating weapons for the Vulture and the Shocker, who is
I
another
can't believe the
low-grade
Shocker
villain from
died.
the
Didn't he
comics.
die? They did him dirty.
So the other villains rumored
Shocker's
to
a cool
appear could
villain.
also be minor Spider-Man villains like Boomerang or the Beetle, who are buying weapons from the Tinkerer. This could
Yeah, I
also
could
be
see
where
that.
the Punisher gets his new weapons. So I think Peter would see these people running around with advanced weaponry and see this as his responsibility to keep these weapons off the streets since Mr. Stark is no longer
Rest in
around.
peace.
And this would also fit in
Mr.
well
Stark,
with
or should I say Victor Von Doom?
Netflix shows.
Hey.
In Luke Cage, we
Y'all
saw
hear that
Atari
theory?
tech was used to create something called a Judas bullet that could actually pierce Luke Cage's
Ooh.
skin. And maybe, under Mayor Fisk, there aren't enough superheroes to curb all this supervillain activity, especially when you have villains like Mr. Negative
he's- I
manipulating
love
the
Mr.
populace
Negative,
and
dude.
driving them into a frenzy. So that takes us
Dude,
to
the
these
Insomniac
teasers.
games are
Let's start
literally
with
like
the one that
movies.
was
They felt like
released on
movies when you're playing
Spider-Man
them.
Day. It's just an extreme
My
close-up
favorite
of the
Spider-Man.
new suit, highlighting its fibers, so we
Sorry,
can see that
sorry,
it is
Garfield.
indeed made of cloth. Now, it does feature raised webbing, just like the suits in the first 5 Spider-Man films. So this is telling us that, yes, this Spider-Man movie will be more in line with everything we've seen before. And Michael Giacchino's
go.
terrific Spider-Man theme plays just as a few notes on the piano.
Bro, I just got chills. I just got chills.
So the theme
movie's
is
always
being
so good.
stripped down to a single instrument without the greater
Dum,
orchestration.
dum.
Much like Peter, who has no super suit, this is the theme completely stripped down. Peter is no longer Iron Man Jr. with all those extra layers of protection.
So happy.
He is just a guy in a cloth suit facing off against the strongest Avenger. The
I heard
Hulk, which is
theories
why
that
I
Norman
think this
Osborn
movie
behind
is going to
everything,
end
that he's
with
the big
surprise
villain.
introduction of the Venom symbiote, but more on that later on. So that was the Friday tease. Then on Saturday, we got an even better teaser that has some extremely cool hidden
Yeah, that's a
details.
little,
It opens on a dark
tiny in
screen
that
as
photo.
the soundstage door opens. Now, this probably reminds you guys of the chairs. Remember when they announced the cast for Avengers
Dude,
Doomsday,
I watched
they
that
brought
whole
out the
thing,
actors'
bruh.
chairs onto a soundstage
Hours
and
just
revealed a
waiting.
new one every 15 minutes. It was somehow the most exciting and most boring day of my life all at once. It was like watching soccer.
Damn, bro. Soccer ain't that bad.
But Tom Holland's chair was conspicuously absent, and we know from the Marvel deal with Sony
A lot of
that the
chairs were
character
absent.
has to appear in at least one Marvel Studios film. So maybe that means he'll appear in Avengers: Secret Wars and not Doomsday. But the point is, I like how this teaser is a companion piece to the chair.
Yeah.
While all
Same
the other
warehouse
heroes
type.
are over on this stage, Spider-Man is just over on this one by his lonesome. And that's exactly how it is in the comics. I mean, Spider-Man by his nature is a loner. He turned down Avengers membership for 40 years. And he
40
never
years?
belonged to a team, except when he wanted to join the Fantastic Four Amazing Spider-Man issue 1, but that was for money. I mean, yes, and he also was the star of a book called Marvel
Fantastic
Team Up,
Four
but
gets
those were
paid.
always 1 or 2 issue arcs. Spider-Man is a
kinda
loner,
crazy.
and in these movies, no other heroes even know who he is. He's just that bug guy that they went to space with, and that weirdo at the Daily Bugle is always yelling about him for
That's
some reason.
funny.
Well, if he were a hero, he'd unmask himself and tell us who
This
he
is the
really
most
is.
comic accurate role
Because
I've ever
only
seen.
a coward conceals his identity.
Now, without Peter's personal connection to Tony Stark, he doesn't really have an end with any of these heroes except Doctor Strange. And even then, that's because Strange is in New York with a giant building with a very distinct skylight. So if Peter
Yeah,
Parker
true.
was in trouble, he wouldn't even be able to text an Avenger, let alone ask to join the team. I'm telling you all this so you understand that in this movie, when Spider-Man's in trouble, he is going to have no help. He's going to have no armor.
But I
and
don't
be
get
completely
why don't the
exposed to
Avengers
harm.
help out
So
these
then we
like
see
world
Holland
threats
jumping up
or
and
like
down to get his
threats
blood
in New
pumping.
York?
Remember, he was a dancer and gymnast before he was cast in this role, so his physicality has
Bro, I
always
didn't
made
know
him
that.
perfect
Damn.
for this part. Now,
I
as
know he
the
was in
camera
that one
pushes in,
tsunami movie
notice
or
we can
whatever.
see the dolly tracks on the ground, and somebody says. And then we get our first look at this total stranger wearing a Spider-Man
Oh,
costume.
who's that?
Who the f is this?
Yeah, who the heck even is this guy anyway?
He's
Sorry, I
talking
hate the
to the
dog.
director
No
here, but
offense, I love
also
dogs.
to
It's just that
us,
dog's
are
pissing
we
me
ready
off.
to see this movie? So a few things to note. One, it is crazy to see how much Tom Holland has grown over the years.
Yeah.
He was such a baby-faced kid in Civil War, and now he is a man, full grown. And yep, that suit is totally cloth. And notice that his cloth suit features a much larger spider
love
logo,
it.
like it was in the Raimi movies and in the more recent comics. And I
And
think
the
all of this,
TASM,
with
the
the
fuck?
cloth suit and
Shit was
Spider-Man
long.
just directly in our faces, showing his camera and then taking pictures with paparazzi. I think that just is
Oh
there
my
to
God, look
show
at that
us
suit,
this
bruh.
Spider-Man is more grounded.
Oh,
He's
it looks
around the
so
people. He's
good.
much more like the Spider-Man in the Sam Raimi film.
I just wish
And
it had
could
bigger
also be
lenses.
that after Peter met his counterparts from other universes, he said, actually, those cloth suits are pretty great, and so they inspired the raised webbing on his new threads. And notice the only piece of tech here that's conspicuous are these web shooters that are outside of his suit. Now, this is a very small
don't even
piece
care
of
about
tech
that.
and are probably the only thing Peter could actually afford to make for himself. In the comics, he's always having to raise money to buy more web fluid, and I think we might see something similar in this movie. Like in past films, the web shooters have been hidden away by his suit, but here, again, he
They're
is
wide
more
open.
exposed and vulnerable. Also, this visual does call to mind the terrible Spider-Man live-action shows in the 70s and that Japanese Spider-Man show, where he had web shooters on the outside of his wrist. Now, they also decided to film the first day of shooting in broad daylight outside
he's
and
trying
just
to
let
die.
fans and
Hey,
paparazzi take as many
yeah.
photos as they wanted. I mean, here's this kid dressed as Spider-Man taking his picture with Tom Holland dressed as Spider-Man. Again,
That's
this
awesome.
is showing us that this is a Spider-Man who is on the street and among the people.
They're also
lot
doing
more
a
in line with the
practical
Spider-Man we
swinging
saw in
through the
first
city.
5 films.
Hey, you
I seen
guys.
that.
No playing in the streets.
Yes, Mr.
Just like they did in Tasm.
See ya.
And Tom Holland also shared these set photos of Spider-Man on top of a tank. Now, at first I thought this tank could be part of the vigilante crackdown on the city, you know, from Mayor Fisk's anti-vigilante
Just the Inner
task
Demon
force.
logo.
Or maybe I thought these tanks could have been sent in to subdue the Hulk, but Peter is trying to stop them from harming Dr. Banner. I should also note these are similar to the tanks in the Spider-Man PlayStation game
Yup.
that are sent in when martial law was declared in the city. But other set photos here show that the tank is stamped with the symbol of the Inner Demon Gang, implying that these tanks are actually controlled by the forces of Mr. Negative.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
he's used his powers to take control of the
That's how
government,
Hulk goes
or
rage.
his forces have seized control of this weaponry. And let's go back to the image of Spider-Man taking a selfie with that kid. Notice that the suit has larger eyes than what we have seen in the past, which are more in line with the embellishments
I
that
need
Todd
bigger.
McFarlane added in the comic. Now, as much as I love the cloth suit, I do want to briefly say R.I.P. to the eyes of the tech suit. I loved those eyes because they would actually move, which would show Peter emoting. And this was a great mimic
Yeah,
of
but
how
they
those
had the thing
eyes
under the
sometimes
mask
move
now
in the
where he
comics.
talks,
Can't
it
do that
actually
with the
moves.
cloth suit. But I do want to say these new lenses do have these ridges around them. So it is possible that Peter lifted those lenses from the tech suit and then adapted them into his new cloth suit. So maybe he'll still be able to use his eyes to emote in this movie. Now, in addition to everything we learned from these teasers and set photos, I'm also excited for what we don't know. I mean, guys, imagine what they're not showing us if we're getting all this information on the first day of filming. That's one of the reasons I think this movie is setting up Tom Holland in the Venom suit and a possible crossover with the animated Spider-Verse movies. You know, for a while, I thought Sony was making
I
a
don't
huge
see
mistake
the
with this movie.
crossovers.
What do you mean?
Well, there were reports that Marvel wanted this street-level movie, but Sony wanted another multiversal crossover film with Tobey and Andrew. After all, No Way Home made $1 billion, and the animated Spider-Verse films are centered in the multiverse. So it looks like Marvel won this fight, but I still think this movie is going to be a huge step forward for Secret Wars, and that film could bring Miles Morales into the MCU. Like we've
But they
spent this
said they
video
want him
talking
to
about
stay
how
away.
vulnerable Peter is, which is the perfect reason for him wanting a new upgraded suit like he used to have. But without access to expensive advanced technology, I think he would be more open to using something like the alien suit. Now in the comics, Peter actually found that Venom symbiote during the original Secret Wars, which I should note is one of the Russo brothers' all-time favorite comics. So I can
They
see
better
Peter Parker
recreate that,
getting absolutely
symbiote
beat to
image.
shit in this movie and
Things like
nearly
that.
dying. But then in Secret Wars, he will find and use that alien suit. Finally, he will have that suit upgrade
I
that he's
believe
been
we're gonna get
wanting
the
for years. And because
symbiote
Secret
suit
Wars is
in
a
Secret
multiversal
Wars.
movie, Peter #2 could warn him about, hey, that Venom goo is dangerous based on my own experience.
I fought an alien made out of black goo once.
And if this new trilogy is going to be darker, maybe that means that Peter is darker and more open to listening to the temptation of the suit. And that evil voice ringing in his ear could be enhanced by the negative thought powers of Mr. Negative. I think this is all going to lead to Tom Holland wearing the black alien suit for an entire movie that will then spin off into a new Venom based in the MCU.
Why do you think that?
Well, Sony appears
new
to be
Venom.
wrapping up it's something to do with Spider-Man I Think universe. Madam Web and Kraven and Morbius all went nowhere. They're not going to lead into a big Sinister Six movie where they fight Null. Basically, the movies were panned by critics and fans hated them.
Kraven
Even
came
Tom
out? I didn't even
Hardy
know
is
that.
no longer going to play Venom. They wrapped up that trilogy too. And I think the reason Sony did that was because they wanted a way to spin off that Venom IP into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So my thought process is, in Brand New Day, Spider-Man gets the living crap kicked out of him. He finds the black suit in Secret Wars. He's warned about it, doesn't listen to the warning. Then we get another Spider-Man film where Peter is just listening to this negative energy from this black symbiote suit. He gets rid of it, just like in the comics and in Spider-Man 3. And then that suit attaches itself to Eddie Brock, who can then be the villain in that movie and spin off into a new Sony franchise. But that would mean that the Venom symbiote would be loose in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So just like in the comics, it could attach itself
Hulk.
to anybody. It could attach itself to the Punisher, to
That
Daredevil,
happened.
hell, maybe even to Thor.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Right? But also, it's the multiverse saga. So if they are going to be bringing in other Spider-Men, it seems like
Andrew.
the perfect opportunity for Tom Holland to meet Miles Morales from the Spider-Verse movies. I mean, I know one's animated and one's in live action, but we saw a live action Donald Glover in Across the Spider-Verse.
Hey. Hey.
And in the 2015 Secret Wars, Miles' universe basically combined with the 616 universe. So maybe Sony is planning on launching dual Spider-Man franchises in live action.
I wouldn't
They're
like
both
that.
kind of
I'm
set
sorry.
in the MCU. Since spinning off non-Spider-Man
fuck is
characters
this?
doesn't work for them, maybe this is what they're going to build up to. This could even lead to a movie where Peter is being controlled by the black suit and Miles has to stop him. Spider-Man versus Spider-Man. So would you guys like to see that movie?
No.
Well, what do you think about all these new teasers?
I think that's cool. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye bye.